Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner, I wish you to go slow. Measure the words. Make sure it's correct as it comes in. This is the next to the last channel of 2015. There actually are 2 more to come. I say next to the last because it's the next to the last one in a Kryon meeting. And so we are going to say that this one is where we wish to bring you information for the future. Some will say this is a science channel. It isn't. But there are those who may say, well, I want scientists to hear what you had to say today, Kryon. And so, right now, I may have those listening who have been told to listen. If this is you listening at this point in time, you're listening in the future. But of course, you don't think it's the future. For you, it's now. For me, it's now. For the crowd in front of me, it's not now. How do you like it so far? We speak to many, out of the time frame that you think. This channel may be brought forward later, and this channel may be something that will be brought into a venue you don't expect to prove what you've just discovered, to validate what you know is there now that you did not when the channel was given. Confused yet? It's that kind of a channel. My partner gives chills, for he knows that the information is beautiful. He knows it's appropriate. He knows it's desired and that humanity wants what is coming now. So he goes slow. I want to talk about a discovery. A discovery that will be made, that is being made, and it happens gradually. And before I discuss what it is or how it works, I want to give you some things to think about. Question: is it possible that there is a template existing in your DNA that carries the secret to youth? A template that isn't simply data. It is part of the molecular structure of multidimensional DNA that can be activated and exposed in certain cases. And when it is, it changes everything about the human being that it belongs to. Is it possible that there is something inside every single molecule of your DNA that could keep you alive 2, 3, 4 times as long as you're living now? Is there a template of birth? A design that can become chemistry that right now is simply laying there as an instruction set, that is outside of the purview of your DNA's 3-dimensional thinking? It's different. What do you think about the prophets who lived 900 years? I jump right to it. I want you to answer the question inside, and if you're a scientist, go ahead and answer it. Foolishness? Reported in many ways, in many places, from different sources. That some of the characters you read about in the scriptures, perhaps, or in the history books, perhaps, lived far longer than any other human beings have ever lived. A few, not one, lived over 600 years. Number one, is it possible? Number two, would there be reasoning from spirit or creative source for that to occur? Number one, is it possible? I am sitting here in the chair telling you it is not only possible, this shows that it was done. In certain cases with certain human beings and with males only, they lived grand lifetimes for the procreation of the race with their consciousness. Simple mechanics. The male seed is fertile to the end. Females are not. It was the man who had to live a very, very long time in order to pass the consciousness through many, many children into a fresh area of the planet that needed that consciousness. Do you believe it? Now you know why. What was the process to keep this man or men alive for that duration? It's simple. They had an activated template of youth. Now, I'm using terminology that is not medical, that is not scientific, and you may have your own. There actually exists right now, I'll tell you it, stay tuned, there actually exists right now a name for this because it's suspected in biology. Number two, when a human being has spontaneous remission, or what some have called spontaneous healing, what occurs? Number one, is it real? Do you believe it? Now you're a little more current, scientist. You've seen it. It's been reported. You believe it because of that. Number two, how did it work? And number two has always been the mystery. And number two has with it a lot of energy. There are those who believe that the consciousness of the individual who was sick brought it about. That is why they call it spontaneous. This would mean that through consciousness alone, and perhaps without knowing it, there was an activation of the template. So fast was it, so amazing was it, that it was beyond that which was recognizable as possible in 3D or in medical history. It's almost like the body cleaned itself, that cellular rejuvenation was accelerated vastly for a few days, for a few weeks, to clean out that which did not belong there to save the life of the individual. Spontaneous, automatic remission of a disease, healing of something that didn't belong there. And it's real. And in the number two category, there are those who say, aha, it's the placebo effect. As though the explanation, giving a name, was all that's necessary and you can walk away. Oh, it's just the placebo effect. Let's go do something else. What is the placebo effect? That really should be number three. The placebo effect is human consciousness through expectation of results, getting the results for no reason except for the expectation. There you have consciousness ruling the chemistry of the body. Full and complete expectation activating the template. Let's talk about a little science. There is a field that is called quantum biology. It's real, it exists, there are those in it, and the premise is this: that biology, like other physics, has quantum areas. Therefore, the molecule itself of DNA or any other molecule must have quantum attributes as well as three-dimensional attributes. Now, for whatever reason, this is controversial. You expect quantumness in physics for years. It has belonged to physics, and yet somehow there is a wall, a barrier that gets put there when you talk about biology, as though biology was not physics. But it is. In fact, biology primarily is physics. For chemistry depends upon the very things that quantumness depends on. The spin of the electrons around the atoms, that they come together to create certain kinds of chemistry of life. It is more profound in a life science than one that is not. Question: is it real? Quantum biology, the study of quantumness in biology and life science, is real. What have they discovered? They've discovered that some quantum energies actually change DNA in interesting ways. They don't know why. They don't know what. But when quantum energies of many kinds are applied to chemistry of many kinds, there are reactions. They don't know why. Doctors, let me talk to you. There is a suspicion that within certain molecules, there are things that should be able to be seen and they're not. You see the results of them in quantum experiments, but you cannot see them through an electron microscope. They should exist to create the result of the experiment, and they don't. They're invisible. Dear ones, they're not invisible. They're multidimensional, just as you suspected. So it carries us to this. Therefore, the template that we are discussing inside the human body that exists in many molecules, including that which is DNA, is only visible if it is exposed by a multidimensional force. Let's say it again. In different words, my partner, here it comes again. The suspected energy in certain molecules will show itself when you expose that molecule to other quantum energies. Period. It is the only time when you get to see what is there. And when you start to see it, it will start having cluster patterns. Patterns that you may not recognize because you have not seen it yet in three-dimensional biology. But you've always suspected it. Let's call it what you think it is, the you-thing cluster. The you-thing template, it should be there. When certain experiments are done, it shows itself for a moment and then stops. Some have applied magnetics as the multidimensional force to expose the template. And so the experiment goes like this. You take the mixture, you put certain magnetic fields with it, you take a look at it the best you can with electronic microscopes, and you look for what you suspected was there, and lo and behold, you see a piece of it. It's there. How many years ago did we tell you about magnetics? How many years ago did we tell you that magnetics is a field that's going to be part of biology, and when you come in contact with what is called designer magnetics, and when you learn how to create magnetic fields that are designed and purposely placed, that is when you're going to see things happen, not with simply a magnet. Not good enough. You're going to have to come up with something more. But dear ones, when you do, it will be a multi-dimensional force, which, by the way, magnetism qualifies. A multi-dimensional force will reveal the you-thing molecule's attribute. The template is in everything. The template is in everything. Spontaneous remission is the template being activated in certain cases by the human being's consciousness, either survival or fear or divine intervention. And you've seen it over and over and over. One of the things that's going to happen in biology is the increase in the acknowledgement of quantumness and the beginning study of creating a life force which is now different because it's exposed to quantum energies. Exposing the template for what it is, to be able to be seen even in 3D partially. When exposed correctly, it will show itself. Then things start to move. Now, let's turn the page. And scientists, you can stop now. Because now we're going to talk about things that you will say are eye-rolling to the max. You'll say it couldn't be this way, it just isn't this way. When I reveal what innate really is. The smart body, that which you have called innate, is in total control of the exposure of the you-thing template. When multidimensional forces are applied, innate sees it and exposes what it should expose. Innate is the smart body intelligence that has no source that you can call a source. It is not from your brain. Innate is not a brain function. The brain is a computer that survives with you. You do something, it remembers it. If it hurts you, you don't do it again. You have experiences that help you survive from moment to moment. Your rememberer, that's in your brain. The creative things that happen come from your pineal. We have told you this before. The things that go beyond both of those is part of the triad, which we said involves the heart. The heart is so important. It actually is involved in some of the things that scientists say the brain is doing. It's the heart that's doing it. There were those who say, well, look, if there's not, you don't have brain functions in the heart. Oh, yes, you do. There's synapse in the heart if you want to look for it. There's magnetism in the heart if you want to look for it. There's all manner of things in the heart. It is not innate. So what is innate? How does it work, and what's going to happen? We've talked in the past about the future of humanity starting to come in differently. That part of what is going to be in the future is children born with a much more advanced innate. In other words, the ability to tie together that which you've experienced the last lifetime and this lifetime so that you don't make the same mistakes twice. And that is innate. I still haven't told you where it comes from, have I? Oh, I will. Child burns his finger on a stove, never touches a stove for the rest of his life. That's brain function, isn't it? Did the innate have anything to do with it? Oh, yeah. You see, the innate is the smart body agreeing with the brain. It's all integrated. Now listen to this. Here is what the innate, and I'll identify what it is soon. Here's what the innate is going to do with a newborn. The newborn will not touch a stove, because the newborn remembers from the last lifetime what it's like. He carries it over, and you're going to call it instinct. Don't touch the stove. The newborn is going to remember also the mistakes that were made that caused emotional distress and not do them again. The newborn is going to carry in the wisdom from the past life of mistakes. And part of the mistakes appeared emotionally and physically. It was the brain, it might have been the pineal and the heart together, but it's the innate that will tie it together and help the newborn remember it and pass it forward, intact as instinct. Now I'm going to tell you what innate is. And it's confusing, because you will then linearize it. You will not be able to understand how it passes from one life to another, because you don't know how multidimensional things work, especially when it has to do with the soul. Innate is not the soul. See, you were wrong. There's a Hebrew word meaning to ride. And the Hebrew word to ride is Merkaba. And the Merkaba of a human being has really never been defined really accurately. What is it? What does it do? The Merkaba is huge, 8 meters wide. Every human being, here's what it is. It is the multidimensional field which is created by trillions and trillions of DNA molecules. The DNA molecules are identical all through the body. Every single one of them, unique to you and identical. That ought to tell you something, because when they get together, if you want to say that, and they are always together, they create a field around the body. The field is a multidimensional field. Spiritually, it's always been seen and known as the Merkaba. Welcome to the innate. Your DNA collectively is what innate is. DNA cannot be taken apart as one thing or another. It is either collective or it is not. Let me tell you something. DNA decides when you die. Innate decides when you die. The field around you will give up the ghost. It's not the brain. Sure, if the heart stops, nothing continues and there is death. But what about if the kidney fails? At what point is death then certain, when it can't process this or that? Sometimes it makes no sense when death occurs. And those who have seen it over and over in hospitals know that there's something else going on in the body that I will call death intelligence. When that which is innate sees there's suffering ahead and there's no more hope, rather than go through the suffering, there's the shut off. That's innate. That's the smart body, because it's really smart. It's also, listen, it's also an innate that's coming back in the next lifetime, because it's connected to the soul and the pineal and all it is. It is your Merkaba. Your Merkaba is the same as the last time, just like your soul is the same of the last time. You carry around different patterned DNA that has the same Merkaba as the last life. Now go figure that out. You can't. Because this is a mechanics that is multidimensional and spiritual. It is so beautiful to know that the you, the core of you, who you are, gets passed over and over. If you could really meet you in a past life, and many of you had, you meet each other. Different face, same Merkaba. Different face, same soul. Same innate. Innate knows everything about every single lifetime you've had. Innate knows you better than you know you. And when you start getting in touch with innate, this is when things start to happen, including the ability to activate the youth template. Are you listening? It's going to happen. Humanity is going to start living longer for numbers of reasons. When they start being able to activate it artificially with other fields that are quantum, there will be a rejuvenation of that which was the temple of rejuvenation. We told you it was coming back. Just different looking. And the other one is you. You with you. How many times have we told you this? That the consciousness of the human being, when fine-tuned, taking on the attributes of life and mastery, will live a very long time. So, Kryon, where do stem cells fit into all of this? That's where the templates are. That's where the templates are. And the stem cells are in every single cell you have. They're still there. Even that is controversial, but that is being shown and learned. There's a fast track to stem cell technology that is being investigated. But even that is not necessary. There come a time when you use your own stem cells instead of any from any other source, because they're the ones with the template you really want. Innate. There are things coming you don't expect. When are they coming, Kryon? The answer is yes. When you allow them to come. When there's enough light on the planet, listen to me. When there's enough light on the planet where these discoveries will not be weaponized, and that's when you'll get them. Do you hear me? When will that be? When you create it. Dear ones, you're in a struggle right now with light and dark. You know this. When it's over and light is predominant on this planet, and that is to say that integrity starts to win over non-integrity. In business, in government, in all things, you'll start to see shifts of what people will accept and what they want. It's going to come from the people first and then trickle on to those things. That is when you start seeing these kind of things happen. They're in the works now. Some of it has actually been discovered now. I'll tell you this, because Kryon does not reveal things that are not discovered. They have to have been discovered, and they are. But typically, they're at their infancy. And it will take a long time before they are refined. But the template is there, and some are seeing it. Kryon, what will the template do? And the answer is just exactly what you think it will do. Cell rejuvenation will be almost perfect. The telomeres will not shorten. The body will not age. Kryon, this is going to create social problem, isn't it? Too many people, right? Not enough food. Can I say this one more time? Oh, how 3D of you. You'll figure out what creates babies. You'll be wiser for it. You'll figure out how to create food for the planet in multidimensional ways. Do you know what happens when you expose seeds to multidimensional energies that are benevolent? It's not a GMO. The plant itself accepts it as a benevolent sign. Just like innate with its template, do you think that the life force of plants might also have something like that? Can you imagine growing perfect crops, 5, 6 times the yield, with no pesticides at all, very little fertilizer, growing on its own because it knows now, as a life force, that you need it to grow? What a concept. Is it possible that human consciousness can be even extended into plants and animals? It's just the beginning. I give you right now a glimpse into a beautiful future. And those who listen to this and those in front of me now, as human beings, are all saying the same things. Oh, it can't come too soon. Let's have it now. Oh, Kryon, when? And I want to tell you, I want you to be quiet because you're going to be there. All right? You may look a little different, but you're going to be there. Dear ones, you are an old soul and you are not done with this planet. You're going to be there. Do you hear me? I want you to get ready for it. I want you to celebrate it and know it's going to happen. I want you to see the truth in this channeling. I want your innate, right now, to check me out. Your Merkabas are powerful, and there are so many of them in the room. Check me out and feel what is there. And know that this is true, and it's yours because of what you've done and what you're doing. It's your legacy and your future. And it's about time. Hello, I'm Lee Carroll. You know.
All right. Well, I think it's time now for a Kryon channel. And so I would like to invite our audience tuning in for this to allow themselves to relax in their chair. And if you've been busy doing things during our conversation, I invite you to just stop whatever it was that you were doing at the same time as joining in and take a moment to sit in the chair, soften your body, relax. Relax your head and your shoulders and your arms and hands and your knees, your thighs, your feet. Allow all the tension of the day to just dissolve and melt away. And once you've done that, I do invite you to close your eyes so that you limit any other sensory coming in to your field other than the audio, so that you can really take in deeply the messages that are being delivered to us in this moment from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Each week, we tell you much the same thing about the perspective and the perception that you might have of what is going on and that we would have from beyond the veil. We know who's watching. Perhaps there are those who would watch this program later having never seen it as it is presented now. We know who you are as well. No matter when this program is presented and you hear my voice, I will tell you this. Spirit is aware of you. It has nothing to do with the age of the program. It's always in the now. And that happens because of the intent that you have to watch. Isn't it beautiful to think that God is so aware of you that when you have the time to realize things or have an epiphany or start to understand things you did not before, that there is actual celebration of this? It's a revelation, and the light is being turned on to some of you as you learn some things. I would like to expose something to you, a perception you might have that's a bit incorrect, and then tell you why I give it to you. These are always times of teaching and perhaps of exposing ideas that go beyond the linear human being. Now, you're going to hear us say this for a long time. For many years, I have come in explaining the differences between what you perceive and totally what is or might be. And almost all the times we do this, it's because of the dimensional shift that is going on. You live in a single-digit dimensional reality. You live in 4. But the real reality of all that is, the universe, is in hundreds of dimensions. Even science admits that there are more than 20 or 30 as they perceive it and start to identify them as the physics reveals them. So basically, you live in only a piece or a part of all that is. And yet, it is how you make your decisions. It is also how you perceive things. It's also that which is your reality. So in that, let me expose something. Some of you believe that either in past lives or other planets or wherever your soul has been, that there is some kind of remembrance of a society with high technology. Now, some of you know where I'm going with this, and some of you think you know, but neither of those cases do you really understand where I'm going with this. What is high technology to you? Let's talk about your grandparents or your grandparents' grandparents. What is the difference right now between their lives, them sitting in a room 100 years ago perhaps, or you sitting in a room where you are now? Here is what I'm going to tell you. There is almost no difference except for the technology. And so what you have today that they did not have is the technology. You can then transmit things, you can speak at long distances, you can travel through the air, you can do all these things. You have an amazing amount of things that they did not have. But let's say as you sit there, they all went away, all of them. Well, you'd be your grandparents. There you sit, just like they do. And that is, they'll have a book to read, they mail a letter, and it gets there in 3 weeks. All the kinds of things that they had, you would have without the technology. So where I am going with this is your perception of high tech. There are many who would weigh in on where your society is going, and they tell you that the knowledge will double every few years, or it's exponential. Where will you be, for instance, in 100 years? And your mind always goes to technology. You'll say, well, what we do today with our smartphones and our televisions and all that is in our virtual is going to amplify, and someday that technology will do this for us and do that for us. And I've told you the inventions that are coming. They're technology. Why would you think anything else but you're going to be helped with new inventions and new technology? Well, where I want to take you is back to that which I started. Let's say you felt you were part of a place in the past, either here on this earth or on another planet, that had high technology. Some of you feel in this story that when you had the high technology, perhaps you destroyed because of it, which is not the actual case at all, because God does not judge you for what you think or what you have. So there has never been a society, are you listening? There has never been a human society that was destroyed by God because of what humans did. You have free choice, dear ones, and there is no judgment. That is contrary to what almost all of you have been told. This God who loves you dearly and is part of your soul thinks of you as a beautiful, beautiful extension of itself, almost a child of God. There is no judgment for learning, dear ones. When your children start to ride a bike and they will fall over, do you rush up, point at them and saying, "We're going to punish you now"? Or do you pick them up, wipe their tears away and say, "You can do it. You can do it"? Do you see what I am saying? Do you expect God is dysfunctional enough to watch humanity learn and fall and learn and fall and then destroy them because they do? Or is God there to pick you up, dust you off, hold your hand, look in your eye and say, "Let's try again. Let's try again"? You see what I'm saying? So high technology has never been your downfall, but let's talk about what you think it is. This is where it gets fun for me. It exposes biases. It exposes that which you think you know and that you don't, because you're not aware of what's coming. Let's go back to that society. Let's say you visit that society in the past, again, either here or another planet, and you walk in and they greet you. They say, "Oh, it's so great to have you back here." And you look around and you don't see any technology. You don't see smartphones. You don't see airplanes. And yet you see the results of them everywhere. You see, one of the humans you see that's welcome you back says, "Wait just a moment." And they close their eyes and say, "You know, Sally wants to talk to you. She's just waiting over there in the next street. I asked her to come on over." And you say, "Wait a minute. I didn't see you use your phone." You say, "Oh, we don't use phones here. I just asked her. We're always in touch. We have multiple channels. We can talk to each other anytime we want to." You see, we have a very high consciousness. Well, by the way, Fred will be here any moment. He's right now in Europe, but he'll be here in just a second. Do you see where this is going? And then Fred walks in the door. And you want to say to Fred, "Well, how was your flight?" And Fred might look at you and go, "What are you talking about?" I just transferred with my consciousness one place to another. It's easy because I know how, and so does everyone else here, and the communication is instant. You sit down at a meal and you ask, "How could such a meal be prepared, and where is your freezer? Where is your refrigerator?" And they look at like you're crazy. And they say, "All of this was available instantly to us. We manifested it because it's simply atomic structure altered. We did it ourselves, and it's pure. And it has all the vitamins we want within it because we manufactured it with our consciousness, and we converted that which was one thing into another." Do you see where I'm going to this? Do you see what the perception is? That is high technology. Not one device, not one transistor, not one solder joint, not one screen to touch. And then when it came to that which was their entertainment, that is another story. They put themselves into the story that they wanted to see. And not only did they enjoy it, they participated within it. Almost that they were the thespians of the movie they were watching. What a time. You've been there. That's high technology. And why would I tell you this? And what's the purpose? I want you to get chills when you think about this. That's where you're going. Dear ones, I have told you that this planet is headed for that which is an evolved consciousness. An evolved consciousness doesn't just mean you're not going to go to war, which is part of an evolved consciousness. An evolved consciousness doesn't just mean that you know better or that integrity will be better. It means that high technology is going to come from within. The very things that you laugh at today as being a little too strange The twins, again, who can talk to each other or sense things on both sides of the earth. What's going on there? What is that? What kind of a consciousness allows you to do that? Or the one who can sense in remote viewing something is happening. Or what about those who can tell you what's going on because they sense the field? We've spoken of that as well. The field is where consciousness lies for you to sense, because the potentials of what is being thought and what is happening all are there. Think of that. Everything that might be so powerful in the future that's being thought of is in the field. Or things that perhaps are going to happen because of what people are already doing that you don't know about is in the field. So you're not fortune-telling when you describe what is already in the field from other consciousness. You're simply reporting. That, dear ones, may seem a little bit high-tech. You've got a future machine, you might say. Where is the screen where you look at it? If you understand what I'm telling you, I am saying to you that your consciousness can create things, can sense things, can transmute and transmit things. Think right now of the masters who walked the planet and what they did. Think of the reports of when they validated that which was healing and also violated physical laws that you think had to be magic or miracles. What if that was high consciousness working at a level you haven't seen that is available to every single human on the planet? Think of that. Perhaps you didn't understand any of this channel. Well, you're just going to have to get it on a replay. It's good to listen to again. What if the high technology that is coming is going to be you? Perhaps in another body when you return, maybe generations from now, maybe a long time from now, that shows an entire different kind of earth without the gadgets, because you don't need them. Think on these things and smile at the magnificence of the human that's going to create it. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Come back into that place of soft awareness. Taking a breath in. Close your eyes. And perhaps with that sound current still vibrating inside you, you feel yourself as the relative of the blue whale, as the record keeper. Breathing softly and deeply into your heart, thanking your ancient old soul, Akash, for the music, for the vibration, for the opportunity right here, right now, today, to dive more deeply into your own consciousness, into that beautiful place where there is oneness for you. Keeping that oneness inside your heart, hoping and waiting is not anything you have to do anymore. Being. Begin the being in this new beginning of 2020. As you give yourself this year, this opportunity for your beingness to come into a clear focus, a time of awareness when you honor who you are becoming, and all that is available for you.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the first channeling of the year 2020. And I want to start it with something I've said many times. You sit here in this audience, perhaps you listen apart from this audience, and I want to repeat the premise of the channeling, of the reason my partner sits in this chair, and what it's all about. Because the information this year is pointed and profound more than normal. Because you are moving into new energies that have already started occurring right here. There is a creator. And most of the world believes this. One God. There is a creator. And the story is far grander and greater than any of you can imagine, because there is a veil that keeps you from seeing the majesty of your soul. Every single human being who hears this and listens today in the chair has a beautiful, magnificent part of them which is called the soul. This is also something believed by billions of people on the planet. The soul is the part that is divine, the part that lives forever. And so almost all of humanity already has the concept of a beautiful, loving, benevolent, glorious God. And the soul? So many don't understand that the soul is not standalone energy. It belongs to this creator. That's where you came from. So there's really two parts to every single human being. There's actually more, but the basic two that billions believe is the corporeal human. That is the body, the vehicle you walk around in. And the divine part, the soul. And up to now, in the energies of the years that humans have been on the planet, the soul is something not understood, not acknowledged, not really. You understand it's there, and you learn about it by the shamans and the teachers and the religions, but you don't really understand and work with it until now. If I could give you a principle of what is happening in the new energy that has never happened before, it is the merge of the soul and the corporeal. It has interesting attributes that some of you are experiencing. Number one, the soul knows everything. Therefore, some of you are starting to receive knowledge, truly, that is part of a knowingness that you realize you were never taught. It's a knowingness that is beyond esoteric. It is a knowingness of practical spirituality. There's a reason you're here. There's a mechanism, if you want to call it that, of physics that applies to all things, including your soul. Multidimensionality is starting to occur. And so in this new energy, what you start to see and what you start to experience is that meld. And it explains so many who sit here with knowledge they don't understand where it came from. And some of you question it and some of you don't. You realize what it is, where it came from, and how beautiful it is. What's a human being going to do with that? And that is the lesson at hand, not today. But it will be the subject of more channels. What do you do with information that starts to become merged with your corporeal self. Is everyone getting it? The answer is no. The old souls are. The ones who haven't gone through the school of life many times are not. And it's not about privilege, dear ones. It's about experience. If you're in a school, you acknowledge the ones who just showed up don't know as much as the ones who are graduating. This is practical. So the old soul on the planet who has been here over and over and over and over is starting to receive information. But that's not the subject of today. This beautiful, benevolent God of yours, the one that you share consciousness with, are you ready for that? That soul of yours has a divine consciousness from the Creator, and it's starting to be part of that which is your consciousness. Of course, there is love and benevolence, but it starts to alter something that's very basic, and that is going to be the subject of this channel and the one that follows later tonight. Now, those listening who will say, well, where can I find that later tonight channel? I'll tell you, if you ask that, you're not listening in the right place. My partner has created in social media a place where all of these channels are. Don't miss the next one. Find it. It's not that hard. The subject is duality. The number of the year should have given you a clue. It's a master number, dear ones. In certain kinds of numerology, the 0 is treated with a value. In Tibetan, it is not. So the year 2020 becomes the number 22. It's a master number, and it really starts to stand for something you have no idea or concept of, called cosmic law. You know it as duality. So this channel is going to revisit duality. But in this energy, dear ones, I got to call it like it is. I told my partner years ago in the shower, where he receives so much information. He said to me, I don't want to channel if I'm a fool. If I come across as a fool, who's going to believe it? And that's when I gave him one of the first premises that he now teaches, apart from channeling, that he teaches. And that is this, that the spirituality is not esoteric. It must be real. It must be practical. It must work. Therefore, you don't have something that you simply float around and hope it works. Or you become part of a very isolated group of people nobody wants to talk to because you're just too strange. Instead, it must be grounding and practical and real. And that, my friends, is benevolence and love and compassion. All of those things. Every mother understands those things. That's real. I said that to him, and that was the point at which he said, I'm on board. Duality has been presented to this planet as a fallacy. If you define duality, normally, the definition starts out like this. It's the struggle between good and evil. A more elegant would say it's a struggle between light and dark, and none of those things are accurate. Duality was presented to you and given to you as a gift, and it's a beautiful gift of free choice to determine your own path, dear ones, where your consciousness will take you and go. It's one of the most beautiful gifts. The story goes like this. In the Garden of Eden, we're going to go to Scripture. We're going to go to a place that is so well known and understood for this example. How many times have we told you that that story is a metaphor? The garden is the earth. Of course, it's Gaia, beautiful Gaia. Adam represents all men, Eve represents all women. And the whole idea of what took place there was intervention. An angel came down, according to Scripture, and touched the human beings and gave them something they never had before. They went from animals on the planet to divine beings with free choice who had a soul. That's the story. And by the way, we have given you even more details about that story. We're not doing that again. Let's stay with that one, because that one is the one that so many who would listen to this would understand. These things must be logical and practical and beautiful. Every one of you sit there as a beautiful creation by the most loving source that you can imagine. I don't have words to tell you about the creative source that lives in you, who always has their hand out, if you want to say. Did you hear that was plural? Who always has their hand out. Spirit is not singular. It's an energy that is everywhere. The creative source is not a individual. It's not a male with a beard. It's loving. It's benevolent. It's gorgeous. I want you to hold that for a moment and compare it to the story of duality. Again, as the story unfolds and the mythology happens, you were given free choice in this garden, on this earth, and right away, you made a bad choice. That's the story. Now that is believable. Let me give you an example. Mother, dad, you have some children in a room and they're just growing up and you're giving the option of a salad or a chocolate bar. Now the children don't know any better. They've had no experience at all with either of these things. They don't understand the principles, the nutrition. They don't understand what's going to happen if they eat chocolate bars all their life. They don't understand any of these things. All they see is the chocolate bar is got to be better than the salad. And so they all go for the chocolate bar. You might say they made an error. They made a mistake. And at that point in time, they'll learn. Because sooner or later, they'll get sick on the chocolate and turn to the salad. And there's even been evidence that scientific research of children doing just that. But the premise is this: you don't know any better. And when you're given new things and new paradigms and given choices in those things, you don't always then go for the best choice simply because it sits there. The angels came down and gave humanity free choice to do whatever they wanted to, and all that was there was presented for them, the salads and the chocolate bars. And they made a mistake. What do you do with a child who makes that mistake? In that room are the children. Well, if you follow the mythology of spirituality, all of the children are now punished. Not only that, their ancestors are punished. Not only that, that chocolate decision is going to last thousands of years, and you're going to be tortured for it. That is the prevailing philosophy of the chocolate and the salad. Billions of people right now perceive God with a stick. God with a stick. Dear ones, that's not the God in you. The creative story has a mistake being made and you're punished forever for it. Now, does that sound practical, reasonable? Does it sound like what a divine God would do? Would you do it with your children? And how that then became the mythology of today's belief is understandable because of the energy that has prevailed until this time. There was nothing better, really. old souls start to wake up. This channeling is not meant to make anyone wrong. It's meant to awaken an explosion to spiritual logic. That soul of yours is magnificent, and so are you. Don't let anyone tell you you were born dirty. That is mythology. And it's a mythology that makes no sense at all to a God that is beautiful, who created you in the image of love, all of you, created in his, her image, the image of love, not the image of punishment or torture. Even today, billions believe that when they die, they'll go meet an angel. And if you don't come up to some standard, that angel is going to send you to a place that was prepared by a fallen angel because of a war in heaven. Does it get any worse than this? This is the children's story of the age, dear ones. This is Kryon getting practical, telling it like it is. It doesn't make sense. That love which so many religions feel of the love of God is totally and completely accurate. Now erase the part of the punishment, of the torture, of the evil, of that which is a decision of watching you and deciding if you're good or bad. That's not free choice. God did not give you free choice and immediately judge you on your choice. I redefine duality because of what's next, what I'm talking about tonight. Duality is the beauty of having free choice of light and dark. Did I say struggle? Sometimes those free choices of light and dark will create struggle. And that is human nature at this moment in time before it starts to shift, that you always expect the worst. And it's in your verbiage. The struggle between light and dark is the old paradigm, the old words. It's not a struggle if you make the right decision. So duality right now starts to shift. This is the year of cosmic law. This is the year of duality. And that means you're going to start seeing light and dark exposed. But the exposition of it is not going to come necessarily from your news. It's going to come first with humanity, who see things that are not correct, and then it becomes news instead of the other way around. Let me ask you a question. Going back to the salad and the chocolate, let me ask you a question. What if Adam and Eve looking at the salad and the chocolate, this is a metaphor, without being blindfolded or simply choosing the one that smelled better, which they did, what if the salad came with a lineage of information, and so did the chocolate? What if they could appear and look at them and they weren't simply things on a plate, but somehow there was a knowingness of which one to go for? Welcome to 2020, because duality is going to start talking to you. This is the meld between that which is the corporeal consciousness, which is very limited to all things three-dimensional, that would always choose chocolate, or a multidimensional meld with that which has information even about the simplest things. How many of you are now discerning things differently as you look at situations? And you'll say, I'm not really aware of that. Oh, really? Why are you sitting here? You discern truth. And you know it when you hear it, don't you? Now that's in this meeting because it's an esoteric meeting. Now project that in the future to a situation where you have to choose a political candidate. In the future, not now. 10 years from now, whatever where instead of a choice based upon your party or what your parents told you, you can read them. As they talk to you, you can see what's under the hood. Imagine such a thing. Imagine knowing when a situation is true or false, just around you, just when you go into places, having a sense of knowingness, of benevolence, as opposed to non-benevolence. To be able to have coherence instead of chaos and know the difference where you're steered to certain places. Then you don't have a blindfold on anymore. Then you're not a child anymore, selecting things that might smell better. Now you're informed. That is the new duality. Tonight I want to tell you where that's going to take you because, dear ones, the veil is being lifted. It's being lifted. In all walks of life, in all things, in all paradigms, spirituality and science and education, social, it's being lifted. We'll talk a little bit about that so you might recognize some of these things as they start to happen. They're already starting. And you're going to have to make decisions on whether things are accurate or not, or true or not, proper or not based upon old feelings, old soul, but an intuition that starts to flow into you. The what-ifs that you never saw before. I'll talk about this new intuition and how it might talk to you, old soul, when we convene later. This is duality. It's beautiful. It's not a struggle. It's free choice to go to the light or the dark. It's free choice without the burden of God with a stick. God with a stick, dear ones, is the human version. That's you with a children's story. That's human consciousness. That's not God consciousness. Everything about that is human. God is so far above that. I have no words. There are no human words to tell you how beautiful God inside is, with that handout that says, "Isn't it time you put away childish things and saw a grand truth in your life that will give you peace for the rest of your life, no matter what happens?" You become more of the soul than of the human. And that's called ascension. I'll be back. And so it is.